half in the bag. Ooh, get fucked. Well, here we are in the back of the VCR repair shop. And right here, you'll find your final resting place.
Ah!
Oh my, that's just an old Halloween decoration. How did that get down there? Oh. There it is.
Now, you're gonna have to sleep on the hard concrete floor, but the good news is, we don't care.
You know, I can't thank you guys enough. You really don't know how much I appreciate your generosity and your kind hearts.
Oh, that's very nice. Now get to work.
What?
Well, Mr. Plinkett, if you're gonna be staying in the back of our VCR repair shop, we're gonna expect you to do some chores. For starters, these are all VHS tapes that were stuck in the VCRs that people brought in for repair. We need you to re-spool each and every one of them.
Re-spool?
Yeah, you see, when a VCR breaks a VHS tape, it snaps it in half. So what we need you to do is to painstakingly take out every screw, take the tape apart, and then splice the videotape back together, then reassemble the tape so that it's in proper working order again.
It couldn't be simpler.
Wouldn't it be simpler just to throw them out?
That's right, Mr. Plinkett. You see, we're gonna sell each and every one of these tapes on eBay for 30 cents each.
That's right, Jay. The way I figure we could make at least, I don't know, $12, $14.
Sure.
And that's worth 27,000 hours of your time.
Well, I guess that's reasonable. Anything for you guys who've done so much for me. I mean, before I met you guys, I used to live in a nice, comfy house. Now I've got a floor.
Well, listen, why don't you get to work, and we're going to go around the corner over there and talk about some new movies we just saw. Do you need anything to get started?
Do you have a screwdriver?
No, don't fuck this up. Move it, asshole.
Beautiful, don't you think?
What?
The sunrise. Terrific.
Gravity is the new film starring Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. It was directed by some foreign guy I've never heard of, so it must be good, right? Gravity tells the story of U.S. astronauts aboard the space shuttle who encounter space debris and everything gets destroyed. It's a struggle for survival as Clooney and Sandra Bullock try to survive floating around in orbit in their space boots. So far, Gravity has had astronomical success at the box office, which isn't a surprise because it's a great film, but it also has two of the biggest stars in the universe. In this guy's opinion, Gravity has relaunched Sandra Bullock's career. In fact, Gravity is so good, it'll keep you in your seat the whole movie.
Are you okay?
What?
What was that?
What do you mean?
You suddenly turned into a hackneyed Hollywood critic.
I wasn't talking. There was like this weird ringing in my ears, and I don't remember the last like 15 seconds.
Has this happened before?
It happens quite a lot.
Have you seen a doctor about this?
So Jay, what did you think of Gravity?
Gravity is... You okay?
Yeah, I said something now. I know it. It was like this.
You said, so Jay, what do you think of Gravity?
Oh. So Jay, what did you think of Gravity?
Gravity is really great in a lot of ways. It's really, really impressive on a technical level, on a filmmaking level. It's probably one of the best theater-going experiences I've had. It's definitely a movie that should be seen in the theater on a big screen. And I almost feel like an asshole having anything bad to say about it, because it seems like it's really trying. But it would have been a much better movie with all the dialogue stripped out.
Yeah. I would have loved to love this movie completely.
Yeah.
Because, I'm a fan of science fiction and space exploration and things of that nature, and I know a lot about that stuff. And it wasn't... It's like it was right in the middle of what I would have wanted. It wasn't like a dumb Armageddon kind of movie where science is completely thrown out the window, but at the same time it had a little too many Hollywood cliches, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
Where it was like, it does this really kind of good job of setting everything up, and then it just goes too far.
What it felt like to me while watching it, this turned out not to be true when it got to the credits. I realized this wasn't accurate, but what it felt like was one of those scripts that gets sort of passed around to different studios in Hollywood that starts like a bidding war, where it's like this sort of high concept Hollywood movie. Like, we've got this idea for a movie. It's a survival film in space, and it has all those sort of trite Hollywood kind of cliches in it as far as screenwriting goes. And then it was given to a director that's very good visually and kind of elevates it beyond those typical elements.
Which didn't turn out to be true.
It turned out that it was Alfonso Cuarón co-wrote it too, so that's not the case.
Assuming his brother,
I don't
him
know.
and another Cuarón wrote it. I have to give it points for technicality, of course.
It looks amazing.
The first like 15 minutes, like one shot. I mean, obviously it's not really one shot, but it's a flowing, non-cutting camera shot.
Yeah.
It starts off, boom, shot of the Earth, and slowly moves in, and it's following around, and we saw this movie on the Ultra screen, which is a screen that is ultra, with the 3D glasses, and I actually kind of enjoyed my 3D experience here. I thought it served the movie really well. The equipment is kind of moving around, or it has a dimension to it.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're in the environment. It does dull the picture down a little bit, but whatever. So Jay, is gravity the unofficial sequence of
Help!
what?
Help! Help!
Explorer, this is Kowalski confirming visual contact with debris. Debris is from a BSE sat. Repeat, I have it ready.
Dr. Stone requesting faster transport.
We have to go.
Actually, the first like 30 seconds to a minute of the movie sums up my feelings on the whole movie, which is it starts just a wide shot of the Earth, very slow, it's pulling back, and you're just like, wow, it looks great. And then tiny little George Clooney comes in, and he starts talking like George Clooney, and he's telling these dumb stories, and immediately I was like, oh no.
That's what I'm talking about, the Hollywood element to it.
Yeah.
The first couple of times that I saw the trailer for this movie, I laughed out loud because it just looked so dumb. And I think it had something to do with Sandra Bullock. Is it Bullock or Bollock or
Bullocks.
Bollocks?
Never mind the Bullocks.
Never mind the bollocks. Do you know that people in the UK, bollocks means balls? Sandra Bullock floating around in a space suit.
Going,
And I think that's one of the biggest elements that I did not like about this movie, was the fact that it had like big A-listers in it. Like
I was
George
thinking
Clooney
about that, yeah.
and Sandra Bullock. Like, if the movie was cast with complete unknowns, it would have had a much more realistic element to it. But George Clooney is movie star man. He's George Clooney if he's an astronaut or a fireman or a police officer or whatever role he plays.
Not even just as far as performance goes, but the type of character. Like in this movie, he is the George Clooney character.
Yeah. I don't know if astronauts talk like that on the radio.
Goof around like they're...
Especially when they're doing extravehicular activities, which is EVA. That's when they're outside of the spacecraft floating around fixing things. That's all astronauts do now. In the moon landings and all that stuff, it was exciting, it was adventurous. The space race.
Oh, sure.
And astronauts during the space shuttle program, they just floated around in space and fixed satellites. But now they don't even have the space shuttle anymore, so this movie's out of date.
Already.
Yeah. Then it's like, okay, well, the audience needs something to connect to. And I kept thinking of a different movie, because it's like, okay, say this was a true story, right? A space thing happening. I kept thinking of a movie called United 93, which
doesn't feel like a movie.
A movie by Paul Greengrass. And yeah, that's a movie that's completely stripped of any Hollywood schmaltz. It's just like, here's what happened, and you don't even get a chance to like know any of the characters, except for maybe like a couple of them in the crisis control center here and there. But you don't. They're not like, the wife calls and honey, where there's like this, I gotta get home. No, none of the Hollywood schmaltz is in that.
Yeah.
And that's what this one like smushed in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
It's
that's
George
for that's for
Clooney's
grandma.
last mission, and also not just the dialogue and the kind of typical sort of character beats, but also the themes of the movie and how they're sort of hammered into your head. Yeah. They always say with movies, show don't tell, but this is a movie that's all about telling. Every single emotion, every single theme they're trying to convey is very explicitly explained in the dialogue.
Well, let's go with this premise. Okay. Here's the thing. There's lots of space debris flying around in orbit, and it is true if space debris hits your vehicle in space, it will rip a hole through it because it is traveling that fast.
Yeah.
This movie just took it to like an extreme level where it's just like every space station is being blown up and destroyed. And
you know what? I'm okay with that. All the visceral stuff in this movie, like I don't know how scientifically accurate a lot of it is. I'm okay with that. It's really just the overwritten dialogue and messages of the movie.
Well, there's that too. I mean, that like Sandra Bullock's character arc and stuff like that, I didn't mind quite as much. I wish they would have expanded it. The space science stuff. It's accurate for the most, except for maybe the end. Well, let's not talk about spoilers. Hold on there. Hold your horses, kiddos. But you got this concept, right? And it's just like, bam, it starts off, astronauts in space. And it's like, okay, we get to orient ourselves. And they go a couple of goofy lines, like, I gotta fix this. And then there's the other guy like, whoa, space is cool floating around. I would have really liked the first like 20 minutes of the movie. Sandra Bullock is a space scientist, and she has to go up in space, and she's nervous about it.
It's her first time.
They go through the whole like process, and they kind of maybe do a montage of her training and the whole experience of getting in the space shuttle and all that like thrust behind you and going, that's scary shit.
Yeah.
Like that's also part of the whole experience. And kind of going through that whole process and maybe scaling back all the jumping from one space station to the other and this and that and this, because there were some really good, exciting sequences in this. And they're like, this is really great and exciting. Let's do it 12 more times. And at that point, it becomes a little too much.
Well, you mentioned Armageddon earlier, and oddly enough, that's what this movie reminded me of, where it's, oh, this went wrong, and then this went wrong. It's just sort of one thing after another going wrong.
Now, you said this movie felt like a repurposed script. Would you think that this may have been the script to Speed 3?
Possibly, yeah. That might have been instead of George Clooney, it was supposed to be Keanu Reeves. But,
What's all that racket?
I don't know.
Oh my God, what was that? It sounded like a huge disaster, like that new movie that just came out that didn't do very well.
Brake, you have to brake!
Can's empty. We're gonna hit hard. Grab a hold of anything you can.
Help! Well, Jay, let's get into some spoiler territory because there's some stuff I want to talk about.
Yes, well, spoilers from here on out. To avoid them, skip ahead to hear whatever. But before you get to that, it's worth seeing. It's a movie that's worth seeing.
Definitely.
And anyway, spoilers.
I was with the movie just fine up until a certain point when it really lost me, and that's when Sandra Bullock used a fire extinguisher to time out the exact precise moment when she would hit a Chinese space station.
Yeah.
And use that as propellant to fly around through space.
I was watching that and I was like, I don't know much about space exploration or science or most things in general, but I'm willing to bet that you probably can't do that.
Things like that are extremely complicated, and maneuvers in space are very precise, and that's kind of when it took a turn for the worst.
Yeah, I wasn't too concerned with scientific accuracy through most of the movie. I assumed they were embellishing stuff, but that was the part where it just ended up coming across silly. That felt like something from a Michael Bay movie.
Certain things are scientifically accurate. Like NASA actually like catalogs all the little space debris that's in orbit. They have like computer models that track it all.
Yeah.
It's like, you go up there and you float around for 10 years and you probably won't run into something. Because it's like 100,000 miles of space. You know what I mean?
And in this movie, she runs into it multiple times.
Yeah, it's like flying around like.
Oh no, it's coming back.
It's coming back.
Yeah.
Like satellite, But it's like the entire International Space Station is demolished and blown apart. And it gets a little too fantastical. To where if you're an actual NASA astronaut, you probably would laugh watching the film. But you have to play to the general audiences. You have to play to the soccer moms and grandmas, and they have to understand what's happening. It has to be exciting too.
But that's what was so frustrating about this movie, is that it would have worked so much better without that stuff. Continuing with spoilers, at the end, there's earlier in the movie, Sandra Bullock's talking about, her child died when she was 4 or something. But she's talking about that, and she's talking about how she doesn't have anyone in her life, and sometimes she'll just get in her car and drive with nowhere to go. And then as she's heading towards Earth at the end, she's like, now I know where I'm going. And it's like, And also it felt like the movie should have ended several times at that point, because you don't even need to see her hit Earth. Like, literally see her hit Earth is not necessary, because thematically the point has been made. And I almost wish it would have ended. She gets to that satellite, and the camera's pulling out, and she gets in the little thing, and you see the door close. I was like, oh, they're going to end it right here. This will be great. But then it doesn't. And then you see the little pod thing floating towards Earth, and it's like, oh, they're going to end it right here. And then they don't. And then she goes, she's underwater, although the underwater part was well done, I thought. But yeah, and then she crawls onto the beach, and it's like, we don't need to see any of this.
Yeah.
All we need to know is that she's trying, and she's moving forward with her life.
Do you remember the name of the second space shuttle that was destroyed? Does anyone remember?
There was a second one?
The first one was the Challenger, and everyone remembers the Challenger. But I challenge you to try to remember the name of the second space shuttle. It was called the Columbia.
Why does no one remember the second one?
I don't know. Maybe because it wasn't so traumatic. Because
It didn't have a teacher on board.
It had the Challenger had a teacher on board, and it was like everyone was watching it, and it blew up
Immediately,
in the air. The Columbia burned up on re-entry. The bottom of the space shuttle has heat tiles all over it, and they could withstand the heat from re-entry. And all that happened with Columbia was like one of them fell off.
Just one.
Just one, and it's like, oh, it fell off, and they're like, it's fine, and they come back in, and all that heat could get in through there and blow the spaceship up, disintegrate it. So it's like, I don't know, I probably would have liked a movie that was a little smarter in the science realm, where just little tiny things can cause catastrophic disasters, and this had to
Which
go...
is terrifying.
Which is terrifying, yeah. One little thing in space
Yeah.
that gets fucked up can ruin the whole mission and kill everybody. Just one little thing, and this was like, it's gotta be everything.
Yeah.
Just the idea of becoming disconnected from the space shuttle and floating out into space is pretty terrifying.
Sure.
And so I don't know. I think the movie, on a technical level, really, really good, really engaging, immersive. Certain parts had you on the edge of your seat, frightening, exciting, But I think it went into that that play to any audience kind of Hollywood stuff a little too much for my personal taste.
Well, saying personal taste is definitely a good thing to bring out, because I can see most people really, really liking this movie because it's easy to follow. They
George
explain
Clooney tells
everything
you
enough.
what's
George Clooney explains every single aspect of the movie, both on a technical level and on a thematic level.
He tells other astronauts about the danger of space debris because they have not learned that in training.
Yeah. So it gets all that information across, where I'm assuming most general audiences won't even be thinking about it.
Yeah, and my complaint is that it's not technically accurate, but that it just goes too far in the goofiness, the unrealistic element of it. Well, Jay, let me tell you one thing I predict about Gravity, and here it is in at 12. It's Mike's predictions. Gravity is going to win an Oscar in the category of sound design in next year's Academy Awards.
Sound design, they just hit mute. That's all they did. There's no sound. That's easy.
Well, that's one of the things that I did like about this movie a lot was the sound design. And that's a nerd argument. And that's one that I've never supported, was that nerds say there is no sound in space, so there really shouldn't
You're
be
talking about in relation to movies that have
in
sound,
relation
yeah.
to movies. And nerds have also argued that there shouldn't be explosions in space because there's no oxygen to burn fire. And then other nerds say, well, the explosions are from the oxygen inside the spacecraft. Nerds argue about everything. And then, but the lack of sound drew you into the movie in the character's place. Because that's what a movie does, is you project yourself into the main character and you kind of feel what they're going through. And the first scene in this, when all the space debris hits the space shuttle, it just kind of comes out of nowhere. And it really is kind of frightening. Because you see all this stuff coming, you can't really hear it. There's no like dun 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 dun.
No, all you're hearing is what the characters are hearing through their helmets.
Yeah, and it's like, and then all of a sudden you see it happening around you, and then you're like, wow, this is this big, horrible disaster happening. It happens so fast, it's like a car crash.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, and it almost like we needed all this wreckage noise. But the fact that it wasn't there really put you in the place of an astronaut floating around in space. And that was a neat thing, and I think it was it Firefly? The show?
Firefly did the no sound in space thing.
And to me, that felt almost pretentious, like, this is going to be scientifically accurate. And at the same time,
with that show, it's like a weird sci-fi western thing. It's like I appreciate it that they would make reference to that, but at the same time, it's not necessarily appropriate.
No.
On that show, it's like Star Wars. Like, of course, they're going to have sounds in space.
Yeah.
In a sci-fi adventure.
Yeah, and then in Firefly, they land on numerous planets, and they all have the equivalent gravity to Earth conveniently.
Exactly.
A planet varying in size slightly would either suck you to the ground or float you off into space.
Yeah, it was a nice little touch, but it's almost like, why bother?
Yeah.
In a show like that.
In a science fiction, fantasy, sci-fantasy kind of thing, you can have explosions in space, you can have music and stuff. This seemed to try to go for that realism, and that's the catch-22 for me. That's the double-edged sword, is that they were doing that in the beginning. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a real kind of movie about space. And then it kind of goes too far in we're going to float around and hop to this space station and get in this thing and go to this and this. And I'm just kind of like, and then this gets destroyed and that gets destroyed.
Yeah, it sort of gets repetitive where it's like, oh, this gets destroyed, so then I travel to this other satellite, and then that gets destroyed, so then I have to travel. It doesn't really. The more interesting parts were the quieter moments.
Yeah. Ultimately, this movie, it felt like a Robert Zemeckis movie.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Like Forrest
later,
Gump
yeah.
and Flight. Movies like that where it has this element of realism to it, but it also has the phony baloney Hollywood feel-good stuff too.
Yeah.
Give me 5.
So, Jay, would you recommend Gravity?
Absolutely. I would definitely recommend it in the theater. It's definitely a movie that kind of reminds you of how great seeing a movie in a theater can be. And 3D, I don't generally like 3D, but it's probably worth seeing in 3D.
Yes, definitely go see it. Although I fear that the inflated box office numbers will spawn more experience movies.
We'll see. If it just spawns more original ideas and movies that aren't based on something else, or sequels, or remakes, or whatever, I'm okay with it.
Check it out. It's different. It's interesting. It's exciting. It is not Carrie. Well, Jay, now that we just talked about a film called Gravity, let's talk about another film. A film where our lead character can defy gravity with telekinesis.
What is happening? What was that?
Pick you up after school.
The other kids, they think I'm weird.
Carrie, favorite poem? Did you bring one?
I don't want to be.
Carrie is a 1976 horror film directed by Brian De Palma. It's based on a novel by Stephen King and stars Sissy Spacek in the titular role, an awkward high schooler who discovers that she has telekinetic powers.
What did you say about tits?
Despite the resistance of her overbearing, abusive mother, Carrie decides to attend her high school prom. But once there, a mean prank played on her by Nancy Allen and John Travolta pushes her over the edge. Also, they just remade it. Mike, what did you think of Carrie?
I thought, why are we watching this? Because I'm familiar with the original. I've seen parts of it long
Everybody
long
knows
time
the
ago.
movie, even if they haven't seen
We
it.
all know the bloody Carrie at the prom dance and things happen. But like,
Well, we should say I've seen the original. I've actually seen it many times. I really like it a lot. You have not. So going into this, having some knowledge of the original, but kind of just watching it as a standalone movie more so than me, what did you think?
It's a movie where the story shines through the execution of it.
Okay.
Because it's not terribly made. It's a well-made movie for, like someone who's directing a TV series, like kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It felt like more of a TV movie, which there was a TV version of Carrie, starring Angela Bettis,
Oh.
who's a much better choice for the role.
Yeah, she's kind of creepy looking. But this one, not visually very exciting. Doesn't seem to have a really strong, like, directorial voice. Like, wow, this is really stark and interesting imagery. Rob Zombie should have made this.
Sure, why not?
Anybody, like, take that material and
Yeah.
turn it into something else. It's a Stephen King book, and it has all those hallmarks, and it's good. It's a good story. It's about a girl who turns into a woman in more ways than one, and has her bloody period. His books and his stories all have a sick sexual element to them, and this one is no exception. It all, at the same time too, it felt like a sanitized teenage drama, and at one point I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, he's taking her to the prom, like. That's interesting. And I'm like, oh, isn't this a horror movie? Isn't something horrific supposed to happen? But it is one of those movies where it's not a good movie to make nowadays, because kids are going to want to watch constant murder and torture, and then this is just a build-up until an explosion of that.
Yeah.
And in this, it's not an explosion, more of a thud.
Well, that's what I was thinking going into it. They were probably going to add more little horrific scenes throughout the movie, more little scares, because an audience won't pay attention. And they didn't do that, so I'll give it credit for that.
Yeah.
But
Me personally, I got caught up in the high school teenage romance, and I was like, "Shit, how could he go to prom with her? What's Sue gonna do?" And I'm like, "Oh wait, yeah."
this is actually it's a really good example especially for like younger people that are just getting into film. Watch the original back to back with this new version to see how important the visual language of film is, because it is the exact same story. This movie is almost scene for scene the exact same movie. I actually noticed the opening credits. There's 2 credited screenwriters, and one of them is the screenwriter from the original movie. And I think he's just credited because they're whole scenes and whole chunks of dialogue just taken right from that movie.
Past the percentage mark, the adaptation.
I think that might be the
percentage
case.
mark,
I doubt he had anything to actually do with the physical writing of this new script. But yeah, the Brian De Palma movie, even if you're not interested in the story, it's a really great movie, visually, technically. There's some really creative shots. There's one shot at the prom. They get there, the camera starts on Carrie and her date, and they pan over to the girl that's cheating the ballots, and it pans up to the bucket of blood, and it's all just one really extended shot, but not in like a show-offy way. And this movie, it's just so bland and forgettable in every way, as far as the look of it and also the performances. The Chloe Grace Moretz, she's no Sissy Spacek.
Who is?
Sissy Spacek.
Go to your closet and pray.
No. No! Mama!
You pray, little girl. You pray for forgiveness.
Mama! Mama, let me go! Help!
Yeah, Chloe Grace Moretz. Shorten up your name, all right, doll. Whatever, we'll call her Kick-Ass Girl.
The girl from Kick-Ass.
Not creepy looking. She looks, she's cute.
When I first saw the trailer for this, I was thinking, like, she looks like the kind of girl that would be picking on Carrie in one of these movies.
Yeah.
But I also thought, like, then I was thinking about that movie Excision that I talked about, where they take an actress who's really attractive in real life and just her posture and the way she carries herself.
Yeah.
She can pull off.
No pun intended.
She can pull off playing this sort of ugly, schlubby Carrie type character.
Sure.
But Chloe Grace Moretz just looks like a normal person through this whole movie.
Yeah,
she doesn't really bring anything to the role.
Yeah, they should have put glasses on them.
That would have made it. Nothing says movie nerd like glasses.
Yeah.
How is this still getting worse?
Oh, great. I'd go check on him, but that would require getting up. Oh my God, where's the beef?
Don't have a cow, man.
I'd buy that for $1.
Cowabunga, dude.
Do the Bartman.
2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
Help!
Anyway, back to Carrie.
If I concentrate hard enough, I can make things move. There are other people out there like me who can do what I can do.
The original movie, it's about high schoolers, but it's not like a movie aimed at teenagers. It just happens to be about these high schoolers. And this one feels like a movie aimed at teens, but it's rated R. It's a very, very soft R, but it's R.
Yeah.
So the audience it's aimed at can't even go see it.
The one thing to note is that the kids in this movie actually look like high school aged kids.
They do. Everyone in the original movie looks like they're in their late 20s.
Yeah. This one, they all look young, like young kids, but then that also made it kind of weird. Like in a, I don't want to watch a horror movie with children in it because they all look so baby-faced. They look like they're 12, and I'm like, I don't want to see 12-year-olds get murdered in a bloodbath. And then, yeah, it was just stupid because I was like, this Carrie bloodbath that I've heard so much about better pay off in this movie.
And it doesn't.
And it ended up looking like a I don't know, like a silly, looked like Glee.
Well,
like
the first
that
thing
show Glee,
Yeah.
you know, where that one lady plays the gym teacher in the tracksuit and all the kids sing.
Yeah.
It looked like that, except for some of them caught on fire and got blood on them.
Well, the first thing I noticed during that scene, because that is the famous scene, the blood falls down onto Carrie, and then they cut to people reacting, and they cut back, and immediately the blood is all dried.
I laughed out loud too. Well, not because it was funny, but because it was like, it was the perfectly sculpted exact way they wanted.
Yeah, it went right around her eye,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, this is a Halloween costume that you're creating.
Yes, yeah. It hit her in the back of the head in the exact way they wanted it to. Plus, they shot it from multiple angles.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they wanted to use them all. So they just kept using it over and over again from different angles.
Yeah.
Like to kind of stretch out that dramatic moment. Like the editor's like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Do I keep it in a wide? And well, I'd like the close-up too. Well, let's just use all of them in sequential order.
Yeah.
And like it just killed the impact of it. And then it cuts to her, and then it's like the perfect. And it didn't have that organic, real feel to it. It just felt like. And then she's making a dumb face and doing like Magneto stuff. Like
Yeah, she's during her telekinesis is like. And also, she looks like she's taking like a maniacal glee and murdering these people. In the original, she's just frightened and lashing out, and she just stands there with these big bug eyes. and it's like haunting and creepy and sad. And this one, you lose any sympathy for her because she looks like she's really like enjoying murdering these people.
No!
Prom is next week. You don't have a date already. Maybe you want to go with me.
Mama, I've been asked to prom.
I did like the gym teacher was Judy Greer, and she seems to elevate bad movies. She was in Jeff, He Who Lives at Home.
Jeff, He Who Lives at Home was a much more frightening film.
It was. It was much more nauseating. Definitely.
I looked that movie up on Netflix. It's under the horror category.
Okay. Julianne Moore's okay.
She was phoning that in.
She whispers a lot. I think because she's embarrassed to be on the set.
But wasn't she also in a remake recently?
Not recently, but this is her second scene-for-scene remake of a classic horror movie. She was in the Psycho remake, Gus Van Sant's weirdo experiment on a studio's dime to shot-by-shot recreate Psycho.
Wait. Gus Van Sant made a weird movie?
It's true, yeah.
No.
It's not as weird as Finding Forrester, where he has
Sean Connery teaches an urban youth how to play chess?
Yes, and he says, "You're the man now, dog."
You're the man now, dog.
YTMND.
That's the start of an internet craze.
The first meme.
Is that the first meme? It might be.
It might be. Someone looked this up. Is that the first meme?
You're the man now, dog. You're the man now, dog. You're the man now, dog.
I did like his film about Kurt Cobain called The Last Days.
Oh yeah.
It's oddly mesmerizing. But Gus Van Sant's new film, Carrie.
I was thinking about it while watching it because Julianne Moore's in it, and she's a well-respected actress. But I was thinking about the original Carrie. Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie both got nominated for Academy Awards for their roles in that movie.
I don't think anyone's getting nominated for anything.
No, but I was thinking about that, and like it was directed by Brian De Palma, and I was thinking about these movies from like the 70s and early 80s where you had these like A-listers making horror movies.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick did The Shining, and like Ridley Scott did Alien, and there's The Exorcist, and now it's just like the bottom of the barrel making these cheapo horror movies.
Well, when horror movies look like Glee, it's a bad time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the guts, pardon the pun, to really take the scary elements over the limit.
Yeah.
Which is why I like the Rob Zombie movie, The Lords of Salem. Gritty, disturbing imagery, and that movie felt like a 70s movie.
Yeah.
And this feels like a WB TV show.
Yeah,
with
well,
some blood in it.
and not even that modern horror movies have to like try to recreate the 70s movies, but they just have to have some sort of voice to them. There's one shot in this movie that is stylish for completely pointless reasons when she's walking back to her house after the prom scene, and the camera for no reason just goes completely sideways. Do you remember that? It stuck out to me because I was like, why are they doing that?
I think I fell over at that exact moment.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably why I didn't notice it from falling asleep.
Okay.
If you looked up forgettable in the dictionary, you would find a picture of us, and then beneath that, you would find a picture of this movie, Carrie.
Okay.
The remake.
Yeah.
No. They're gonna laugh at you. They're all gonna laugh at you. Oh, stop it.
If the two of you are planning some kind of joke on a poor, lonely girl.
Oh, God. I think it's finally over.
So, Mike, would you recommend Carrie? No?
No, it doesn't carry its weight. Bland is the best way to describe it. Bland and forgettable with not a very exciting payoff.
Yeah, I would not recommend it either. Watch the original. I know it's the easiest thing to say when talking about remakes, but this is a very good example of how material can be elevated with someone with a vision. Well, I guess we should go check on Mr. Plinkett and see what kind of disaster he's created.
Yeah, no doubt it'll be a huge mess.
Let's go.
Well, I had a few problems, but now everything's done perfectly and I need no assistance.
Oh.
Well, are they in alphabetical order?
Yes.
Oh.
You're the man now, dog. You're the man now, dog. You're the man now, dog.